Honourable Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just take the opportunity to talk particularly to the SOPs as proposed by Eugene Sage, and it's been a topic of a lot of the conversation. It is, as the member said earlier, one of the contentious points that was during the committee and in the second reading, and of course now that we're at part 2, which is clause 18, and the concerns that some have in and around that. I do acknowledge, though, with respect to the Chair, that the work that the committee did, obviously, to get us to this point was obviously very, very good work, and well done to them. It's unfortunate that some parties aren't agreeing or will be not voting for this part and this bill at the end of the day, but let's see how we go. But Mr. Chair, the concern seems to be the independence of the topic setting by the Minister of Statistics and the Minister of the Environment for the Environment. And it's been made out as if this is something new. Well, in fact, the Statistics Act in 1975 already has this same model embedded. And in fact, without reading the particular clause of the bill, the Act, in fact, Mr. Chair, actually the key point is that since 1975, the ministerial power has never been exercised since the Act was passed in 1975, but it was essentially this same model. And the chief statistician, if in fact they believe the minister has interfered in some way in the goings-on or the making of statistics, or at an operational level, or interfering with that particular act, they can report to the House or make public their concerns in that. And as I note, Mr. Chair, that has never been used, at least since 1975. And again, that's the same model that we have here. I do note that the SOP has a suggestion that the Secretary for the Environment and the Government Statistician do the topic setting. And I also do acknowledge, though, Megan Wood's point that there was another suggestion, and I think was an early discussion, that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment did the topic setting, but she also acknowledged as to why that shouldn't happen, and she pointed to some of the checks and balances in clause 17, and which is absolutely fair enough. But it brings me to the checks and balances, because as the House saw in the second reading, the House did accept the changes by the committee, inserting more consultation around the topic setting by the ministers with local government, iwi, and also the clauses of, if there was deemed to be some, let's say, mischief clauses, I think it's 6.1 and 9.2, I might have that round the wrong way, 6.1a and 9.2, which both quote, which also point to the SOP by Eugene Sage. Both of them the same as, Eugenie Sage, apologies for getting the name wrong. As soon as reasonably practical, after the Secretary and the Government Statistician have published a domain report, the ministers must jointly present the report to the House of Representatives. So accountability, political accountability to this House, to Parliament, is actually paramount in this bill, in this proposed bill. Because, Mr. Chair, the other side of the debate and the proposals from the member, if in fact a well-worn path, if you like, that topics, or we have the regulatory process, but I note that if the topics were set by the Secretary for the Environment and the Government Statistician, well, yes, that would be, some may see that's a better option, but also having topics in regulation also allows for important levels of accountability to this Parliament, who are representatives of and to the public. So if the ministers are jointly recommending regulations, i.e. the topics, they are accountable for those choices made when setting topics and ensuring that the scope of reporting is relevant to New Zealanders, i.e. they are accountable to this Parliament, to this House. If the other proposal under the SOP, the Secretary for the Environment and or the Government Statistician were to set the topics, accountability for their decision making would be met through the judicial process, a judicial review, as with any statutory power. So again, there are pros and cons of both proposals. I fully acknowledge that, but I also fully acknowledge that these were canvassed very well at Select Committee. I acknowledge that those points were pulled up, reported on in the various reports by the political parties in the commentary on the bill. But Mr. Speaker, actually, a well-worn path, the model is already in place under the Statistics Act. The model of independence, regulatory process providing certainty and confidence and accountability, Mr Chair.
The Honourable Craig Fox.
And accountability to this chamber, to this parliament, to this house of decisions made by those two ministers in setting the topics are open for accountability to the House. Mr Chair, the committee did a good job in arriving at the decision that they did. They enhanced the original bill to give further checks and balances given concerns raised at the committee and now which has been accepted by the House at second reading. So, Mr Chair, for those reasons, we are not supportive of relitigating the discussion and argument as proposed, but with respect to the members' SOP.